You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
All right, everybody, welcome to this week's edition of the Couch Potatoes. I'm Alex.
Morrison.
And this week, along with all our different news segments, the boys, well, I guess this time a lot more girls, we're back in town, and we have just finished watching That 90s Show. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the episode. But Chris was telling me about his week with his new work, and through all that, it also reminded me that I've been getting my girl to rewatch Beavis and Butthead with me, because I got her to watch the first movie, and just the other night she was like, "Oh yeah, didn't you say they had a second movie?" I was like, "Yeah, did you actually want to watch it?" She's like, "Yeah." It's like, okay, cool. So we played that, and then even this morning we started rewatching the season. So once I rewatch the season, we'll do a review of the new Beavis and Butthead season, because for a minute I got worried. I don't know if it's because I was just error casting my phone to her TV, because I didn't feel like messaging you again to ask what the Hulu password was. It was already signed out on my phone. I can just cast it to her TV. What the fuck ever. But I guess the segments where HBO would put ads, it's just black.
Yeah.
And it plays through the whole way. So we're watching it, and it just goes to black screen. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? So I'm like pressing fast forward, I'm like pausing it, I'm about to close out of the whole thing and like load it back up, and all of a sudden it like clips back to the episode. I was like, oh, fuck. They had to cut out some cutaways. Like the music video bits. I'm like, oh no. And it was the first episode. I'm sitting here going, the Cale Dobbs cutaway got removed. And I swore it was because of the whole, he's grooming him. Yeah. But no, it's shortly, I was like so bummed. I was like telling her about the whole skit and everything while I was letting it play out. I was like, I don't know how long the black's going to be here. But it was like this, that, and the other. I'm not surprised they may have pulled it. Maybe he got all pissy and they had to cut it from the show. And then later on it shows up. So no, it's still there. So weird shit though. If anyone had AirPlay, let me know if you tried using HBO and it just winds up Paramount.
Beavis and Butthead's on Paramount.
Okay, then yeah, the Paramount app. Either way,
that's why it didn't work, because Paramount app sucks.
It really does, but yeah, that's at least where Beavis and Butthead is.
It's fucking terrible.
Well, speaking of terrible, though, let's go ahead and move on to our news segment, because there was a piece of news that we forgot to bring up last week. Yeah, HBO is removing signature shows.
Yeah, so
from their app.
So HBO is known for creating their own content, like per diem, like forever. They've always made their own shows. Sopranos, HBO original. When you see those two words, HBO original, you know it's going to be a good show. Yeah. So they made a show called Westworld. Westworld was written by Michael Crichton, the same guy who wrote Jurassic Park, or in every other horror theme park movie, because he hates theme parks. But he made these books that became movies. The movie Westworld had like Yul Brynner. It was in the 70s. It was really good. It was a real big hit. They made one called Beyond Westworld. It was another big hit. But then they finally recently made a show. Had 5 seasons if so. And HBO has decided to pull that content from their streaming service. So in a grand scheme of things, it's a first, because no streaming services has ever pulled their original content. For example, Stranger Things. Stranger Things has been on Netflix forever. What if you get in the news next week that Netflix has decided not to go forward with Stranger Things because they sold the IP? Can you imagine that?
Well, why did HBO take it off?
Because they used Michael Crichton's IP for it, his intellectual property rights, because they bought them. They bought those rights. Paramount has actually decided to step in because they were part of the movie making process to take that away. So now it's kind of up in the air on intellectual property rights on HBO originals.
Okay.
So David Chase, the guy who made Sopranos, at any time could say, I'm going to sell my property rights when I die to, let's say, Disney. Then Disney could say they want HBO to take the Sopranos off their streaming service. Even though HBO made it, you still have, property rights on both sides.
Right.
So it's kind of like Walt Disney pulling Mickey out. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, that's the thing. I was actually listening to a video today. In exactly a year, there's the original version of Mickey Mouse is going to be part of the public domain. Now, the interesting thing with that, though, is before people immediately start going, oh, shit, I get to slap, Mickey Mouse on shit, get to reap in the money for it. Probably, but at the same time, it's still more than likely going to get pulled, or you're still going to wind up getting in trouble for it, because even though it will now become part of the public domain, they have a trademark on it. And if you notice, a lot of the Disney presentations lately, part of their intro isn't the castle anymore. It's Steamboat Willie.
no.
And so now they're using it as an identifier for their current company.
And
so if you were to still use a derivative work of that, you could still probably get in trouble.
Disney has been known to skate by the public domain for so fucking long.
Well, you can thank Sonny Bono for that.
Yeah, but
It's a true story.
They've been actually doing this not only just with Mickey, but with all the Disney princess stuff. Europe actually cut Disney out of their own creations years ago, back in the 90s, when they tried to trademark Cinderella and say that you couldn't do a performance of Cinderella without Disney's approval, not realizing that is a European fairy tale along with Beauty and the Beast, Phantom of the Opera,
Snow White.
Every fucking
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, well, no, Alice in Wonderland is a fictional book written in the 50s. So
It's still a thing before the animation.
But like, fairy tale. You know what I'm saying? Like Mulan. Like, that's like telling China they can't use Mulan. Like, get the fuck out of my face. But like, they've been skating by on this rules for thee but not for me mentality when it comes to public domain. Like Pink Panther, public domain.
Betty Boop,
Felix the Cat. All these creations are in the public domain. But what's so special about this goddamn mouse? Nothing. It's just the identifier of Disney. It'll always be that. But you got to kiss my ass when it comes to like saying like, oh no, it's there in perpetuity.
Well, I think in that same video, that guy brought up, I think in 2032 and 2035, something like that Superman and Batman would be part of the public domain.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. It should be now.
But I don't necessarily agree with all that. If they may be part of the public domain, but I kind of like what they're able to do with the trademarking behind it all. So, because think about
if you know why public domains exist, why that meeting exists.
Why?
It's to prevent people from making money off dead people's creations.
Right.
That's all it's for.
Right.
Walt Disney didn't draw half his shit.
Right.
It was Works.
Yeah.
He fucked that dude out of Steamboat Willie. He fucked that dude out of Pluto and all these other characters. That whole public presentation bullshit is all about the people owning the rights until they die to make sure they get paid for what they make.
Right.
That's it. That's all it's for. And when you tell someone like Bob Crane, who made Batman, Kane, he's deader than hell. He's dead. There's no reason for a company to say,
the family estate.
The family estate's different. Public domain is meant for against companies, not estates. Estates will always have the right,
but not if it goes into the public domain.
Here's where it plays off. They get residuals. See, that's another thing companies do. They get residuals. Beavis and Butthead probably shouldn't be around. Mike Judge will always make money off that. He'll get residuals constantly. and constantly.
Now.
But Fox, should they say after Mike Judge's death, well, now we should get that?
Well, no, it would be passed down to his daughter.
That's the family estate. I'm talking about should a corporation step in on the rights of an estate? No, that's what happened to Bob Kane. Bob Kane had his whole family's estate taken away because they skirted around public domain laws. Walt Disney skirted around public domain laws to get past Uber Iwerks after he died.
What did Bob Kane do?
Bob Kane passed away.
Yeah.
And the rights went to his estate.
Right.
He had no heirs. So the company came in and took it. A company took it. The government should have stepped in.
They sold it.
No, Bob Kane had the rights until he died. But Bob Kane also had a partner. Okay, they could have
Bill
gone.
Finger.
Yeah, why didn't it go to him?
Because he was never part of the official rating credits.
And so that's the problem. That's why public domain should exist. So no one should own this one thing after someone dies. An estate can make money off of it through presentations on entertainments like streaming services, cable, shit like that.
But can an argument not be made that when those specific laws were created, they were not considering what large multi-billion-dollar conglomerates companies could be? So I'm putting myself in the shoes of insert whoever current president of Disney is. I think Bob Iger is back.
Yeah.
Put myself in his shoes. Do I want to lose the rights to Mickey Mouse, the image that's been associated for the company that now I run? No, I don't. This is our image. This is the logo. This is our thing. Why I would fight to keep that our thing, because we're still alive. We're still using it. Our whole basis is on the simplistic 3-circle design. This is ours. It's going to be very hard for me to try to separate it and be like, it's everyone's, when for how long has it been associated with this successful company that's had its ebbs and flows? You know, so that part for me is a little bit hard to kind of fully justify, you know?
My argument is Disney, as big as it is, will never stop making Mickey Mouse. Forever.
Yeah, I mean, they have the trademark on it.
1,000 years from now, it'll be imprinted on the moon like a fucking tramp stamp. Okay? Disney, the giant D itself, will be there.
Yeah.
Okay? At no point could a punk band put Mickey Mouse on their cover of their album and not get a cease and desist order from Disney? Yes. If you got rid of those protections.
But see, at the same time, if it's such a carefully cultivated system and organization,
it's never carefully cultivated. That's the thing about law. Laws.
No. I'm talking about the company, like Disney.
But the laws themselves. You brought up laws earlier. The laws are never going to keep up with as fast as development.
Right. No. I wasn't mentioning that.
But the companies itself should just like stand back for a second and appreciate how much love they got for their product. Because they're still making the product. Mm-hmm. That's never going to stop.
That's what I was trying to comment on, is if I have such a carefully cultivated company where Mickey has always acted, looked, felt a certain way, if you start loosening the grip on what's allowed to be in the market, and all of a sudden, let's say Joe Blow's, garage rock, punk band, recorded a whole bunch of CDRs, put Mickey Mouse on the cover. Well, hot damn, that record sells, all of a sudden it hits the right ears, now it's gone into market, and now this horrible bastardized image of one of the largest corporations is now part of an album cover. And if it's fully allowed, you're going to all of a sudden receive copycats. Now everyone's going to be trying to create their own fucked up Mickey Mouse for their album covers and t-shirts and stickers, and now there's a whole market.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
I know you are. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a CEO. I'm not happy with that. You're tainting our image. You're tainting something that we've worked very hard to keep very similar for a very long time. And now it's kind of fucking up. I mean, let's just look at the way Velma's rocking. It's like that's not getting liked by, current or old fans, any sort of fans.
And with that, it'll die out. If that's true. Mm-hmm. If something is virtually hated, it'll die out. And the people that own the IP won't have to give a shit.
Yeah.
But you're like with Mickey Mouse, the Jesus of the cartoon realm, the most recognizable fucking mouse in the world.
Yeah.
They can't loosen the grip just a little.
I'm not saying they can't loosen the grip, but I'm at least explaining the other side of why they would want to skirt that public domain law.
And here's another problem I have with, the bigger companies that do it. Someone who like freelances or something like that, a company that large could argue someone smaller than them to death over what looks like their product and what doesn't look like their product. So if you had made something, another song, let's say you wrote a song that sounded a little too close to another song.
Right.
You genuinely wrote that song. You probably never even heard the other song. But it got heard by a certain somebody, and they're like, man, that Alex Stiff guy, he stole that song from Atlantic. Atlantic, being the largest corporation at its time, could say, we're suing you and take you down to the grave.
Yep.
There's nothing stopping them from doing that. And there's no way for you to win. We've heard these, David and Goliath stories sometimes, but all the other ones, you're done. And that's like the whole case for Mickey Mouse is going to set the precedent on how a company handles themselves in the public eye with public product. Okay, they've had it for over 100 fucking years. They're fine. They've made their money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying they haven't made their money from it.
And they fucked the entire corporation under them, the people who made it happen. Okay, so I'm not worried about Disney. They could lose Mickey Mouse forever tomorrow. Well, I wouldn't give a shit.
I wouldn't say I'm worried about them either. I'm just simply explaining that. Look, if I was Walt Disney, even in my death, I'd be like, fucking keep this shit going, guys, at any fucking cost. Yeah. Something I created is going to outlive me 2, 3, 4 times. Fuck yes, do it. So I'm just kind of looking at it from that angle. So that's all right. Here we go, Discord. That's where we kind of stand on this. Chris is just like, fuck it, bring out the full public domain for Mickey Mouse. Me, I'm kind of sitting here going, hey, I wouldn't be sitting here pumping my fist going, grrr, Disney, if they found a way to continue to hold the copyright. So let us know what you think in the Discord. If you're not a member yet, sign on up, click the link in the description and let us know, because folks have been kind of chiming in, letting us know how they thought on different episodes. So we might even make that a segment, like a mailbag segment. If you send us a message, we might even cover it on the little news segment, because
you got mail, bing.
Yeah, you've got mail.
Oh fuck, it's hate mail. Gross.
All the internet is two demons fighting with each other.
I heard a lady say that one time.
But before we actually get into that, kind of working off what we were initially talking about with HBO removing some of their shows from streaming, Inside Job Season 2 has now been canceled from Netflix.
Well, Netflix is known for doing this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Netflix is the cancellation network. And
we will cancel you as quick as we approve you.
Yeah, and it's kind of fucked up, because we had talked about it a couple episodes back. The creator heads of Stranger Things have left and gone to Amazon. Stranger Things season 5 will be the last of it, but they filled out their contractual obligations when season 3 happened. So they have already signed contracts with Amazon to make another great product. So Amazon will make another kick-ass product with those two, or not. Who knows? It's a fucking up in the air, because people just shut the fuck up.
And as a little side note, not enough to even cover in the news segment, but The Boys, we're going to be getting a new season of that this year.
Yeah,
they started teasing that.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan will be part of it. Eric Kripke worked with him quite a bit in his last Supernatural show, so he's going to be pulled. It's like those directors who always pull those same guys.
Yeah.
It's like they're Johnny Depps and Helen Bonham Carter's are always going to be in a fucking Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, but now Duffer Brothers are going to be on Amazon, and fucking Inside Job no more on Netflix. And that's a bummer, because you showed me Inside Job, and that's a fucking funny show.
In season 2, there's their version of season 2.
Yeah, because a lot of people were kind of confused when the article came out, being like, they already had season 2, when in reality it was season 1 split into 2 parts when they released it.
So we remember what seasons used to be, like 40 some fucking episodes. Nowadays in streaming world, it's a 10 episodes. We just watched the first season of that 90s show. But if a second season came out and they had the gall to say, no, that was a part 2, shut the fuck up. Because they were the finale. Yeah. There was a finale for Inside Job. Part 1. That's a season. Shut the fuck up. You made a season 2 and reneged on a contract. That's all you did. Those guys are probably going to go off to fucking HBO or
I was just about to say that HBO's going to fucking swipe it up and use the name, and they're going to make a season 2 or whatever over
well,
there.
HBO need to do something fast because Discovery is fucking them to death because HBO is going to shit. Like, I didn't care about all the other products they got when we got bigger. I didn't care about the WB. I like DC and all, but I don't give a fuck. They got rid of DC product when they first got DC. So, like, you used to be able to watch Swamp Thing, which was a live-action horror show.
Yep, that was part of that when they were doing... As soon as they released the DC streaming service, remember that, guys? When that came out, that's when they were pushing that hard.
Yeah, a friend of mine had it, and that's how I watched Swamp Thing.
Yep.
And, like, holy shit, that was a wild thing to watch because it was filmed here in North Carolina, for one.
I know, that's so crazy.
It's set in, like, southern New Orleans. But, like... that was cool, you know, and you're seeing like kind of similar locations and stuff like that. The actors were good. They had like movie level actors in it. They had new actors in it.
And I heard the costuming and the way the creature looked really good.
Oh man, right up there with John Carpenter's The Thing. Like they used practical effects along with CGI effects,
and a good blend is just awesome.
Yeah, and it got panned because it's Swamp Thing. It's not a popular brand. Okay, fine, but it was a try. It's a fucking try. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Hell, that Werewolf by Night. That was a try.
I liked it.
And yeah, a lot of people fucking hate it.
I don't understand why. It was one of the better fucking things they did throughout that last phase.
People didn't like the aesthetic of it. That's the biggest part of it. They didn't like the aesthetic. It didn't fit with the other.
Oh, I grew up with the original Dracula and Frankenstein and Bride, and that's why I liked it.
But like that's universal. That's not Marvel, you know. Right. So like they didn't like that, so fuck them. But like if they decide to go forward with it, okay, cool. The DC, they threw money at this project and lost.
Yeah.
So with DC doing that and then deciding to get rid of it altogether, like you could torrent it online probably.
Oh yeah.
You can download the whole fucking season illegally.
Yeah, and I watched the other 2 episodes of Velma that came out this week, and it's not getting better. I still kind of went back into it as like a maybe. Let's see. No,
I haven't had time to watch anything except for today. But
no, it's still not good.
But like Netflix and stuff, Netflix has canceled so many up and coming things that people love, high reviewed things, and they've canceled them, and it doesn't make sense. They redid a story called Midnight Club, which is about kids who are terminally sick who tell ghost stories. It's a lot like Tales You Tell in the Dark,
yep.
You know, Nickelodeon style, you know, and that's what that show was based off, a series of books called The Midnight Run. So that's what that was, Midnight Club. That's what it was. Universally loved. Out the gate. The LGBT community fucking loved it. They didn't kill off a bunch of gay characters like they usually do. But like,
that's why they loved it.
Yeah, but like they loved it. And now they've decided to cancel it altogether. The people that wrote the story or whatever are fucking furious. They're like, why? This is one of your highest rated shows. And then you get shows that get more seasons that barely anybody watch. So
Big Mouth, why is that still getting new seasons? I've hated that goddamn show. I tried watching like an episode or 2, and I'm just like, this is...
Oh, it's raunchy as shit.
It's not just the raunchiness. That's fine. I like raunchy. The jokes suck. It's like a shitty jokes with raunchy.
And that's your opinion on it. But like the other 99 are like, we fucking love it.
I would say it wouldn't be the other 99. I wouldn't make it a single out.
But no, like Rotten Tomatoes is giving it quite a high rating. Not just the critic part, but the studio part. But you know, that's gonna be said about anything, you know, whether it's opinion based, all it is. Other than King of the Hill. King of the Hill is the perfect show.
But a lot of people were surprised about the Inside Job cancellation because
it was like people gave it really high reviews.
Well, not just that, but everyone kind of got flashbacks to the Henry Cavill news. It's like as soon as he posted on Twitter, he's just like, you know, I like doing my cameo, can't wait to, you know, continue the story and the legacy. 2 weeks later, fucking fired. Yeah. So it's like it was a similar thing. They got approved for that season 2. They had just started promoting that they were going to be going into production, and then snap, gone.
And then Netflix is going after people who password share.
Yeah, they have been. That happened late last year, but they're slowly
they're going hyperactive for 2023.
Yeah,
kiss my ass. That's how you made your money. That's how they made the money. So I remember, like the second year I had Netflix, they gave the option to buy an extra screen because it would cut off. If too many people are watching your Netflix, it'd be like, hey, someone else is watching this.
Yeah, I think you could have there was a package for 2 screens and 3 screens.
The original subscription was 3. I paid the extra $1 to get the 4th, and then I paid an extra $2 to get the 5th, and now I pay $16 a month. But now they're telling me, because they sent me an email saying, hey, we have a new tier, with commercials. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, Netflix is going to be trying to put in commercials in for the people, because it's already been out in beta testing. Mm-hmm. And within the beta testing community, they said it is not intuitive. They don't slice in exactly where commercial breaks should be. You'll be in the middle of watching a movie, and they'll be like, but I was telling you, come out to New Hardee's to try the new Baconator. It's immediately
I will say this. If I'm watching a streaming service and you advertise on a streaming service with, like, let's say The Bear. Let's say I'm watching The Bear and, a streaming commercial comes on and it's your product. I'm going to do everything in my power not to buy that goddamn product.
Why?
Because it's fucking ridiculous. Ads are every fucking where. If I wanted your product and it was good enough, I would fucking buy it.
Well, how would you know about it?
I just go online like everybody else.
But how would you see it?
I would just type in cleaner, and the whole list of advertisements are going to pop the fuck up immediately. That's how that works.
Oh, so you're not against advertisements, just advertisements during a streaming service?
If I'm paying you, I don't need to see a fucking commercial. Yeah. That's a goddamn fact. All right?
Tell that to the cable company.
So when cable first came out, it didn't have commercials. That was the whole fucking point. And then it started having commercials. This is the cable situation all over again. Then what you're going to do is, what's going to happen is, I can kind of see it coming, are people just panning your fucking product immediately. So we know somebody who likes to get on Google and do bad reviews of products. That's what I'm going to do on my free time now. I'm going to go and be like, oh yeah, the Hardee's hard tea, or whatever the fuck, what was it? Bojangles.
Yeah.
The Bojangles hard tea is so disgusting. I wish I had fried my hand in chicken grease and ate that instead.
I really do want to try that though when it comes out.
Of course you do. You're a consumer. But do you want to see 14 fucking commercials of it while watching goddamn, whatever the fuck?
No.
The Mario movie?
No,
okay.
I don't.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Bowser's about to stab Luigi in the chest. It's like, try Bojangles hard seltzer because you want to get drunk and eat chicken.
I'm too drunk to taste this chicken.
I'm too drunk to drive, and he's in the drive-thru. I want my sweet tea. You fucking piece of shit.
Well, while we've been talking about Netflix, this is as good as time as any to go ahead and dive on into our main topic.
Hanging out down the street, the same old thing we did last week, not a thing to do, but talk to you. We're all alright. Hello, Wisconsin!
Yes, as Chris mentioned earlier, we just finished watching That 90s Show. I'd watched a couple episodes within the last few days, and then we just binged the whole season today. And overall, first impressions, by the way, spoilers for anyone that has not watched the whole series yet and is kind of taking it slow like a normal human being. If that's going to be it for you, tune in next week. Otherwise, overall thoughts, Chris, what'd you think?
After the first 5 episodes, it looked a lot like a show I would see on probably Disney or Nickelodeon. The way it looked, the way it was shot, because it's shot just a hair different from the original, which is fine. It's 2 decades later. I understand the timeline. The soundtrack is fantastic. They really hit those songs where they really need to be. And, it is a bunch of 90s kids. That it's the same as that 70s show. They seem younger and smaller than the original cast, but going back and watching the original cast, super fucking young. Mila Kunis is like, what, 15?
Yeah.
So And that's the age they set these guys. 15, 16 years old. They're driving probably. They're doing drugs for the first time. They're in high school. And, we got that feel with that 70s show, but it almost seemed like they were probably like juniors or seniors when we first started watching.
Yeah.
Because, they didn't go to school a lot after the first 2 seasons. They were, doing stuff. They were going to work. Eric was working, working with his dad, So, people were doing shit. This one, it's a great opening season. I really enjoyed it. But like I said, it did feel like it was like something I would see on like the Disney Channel.
I find it really funny that you mentioned that, because that was my thought watching the trailer. That was the one thing that kind of had me worried going into the series, as I was looking at it, and it's just like, fuck.
It looks too bright and shiny.
It feels like a Disney Channel show. I'm like, oh no. But I will say, throughout watching it, it had a lot of the same charm, man. Like, it really did. Like, what anchored it in for me, and we'll go into further detail, but my quick little overview is, if Kitty and Red had not been part of this, it would have suffered tremendously. I think that having those two anchored it a little bit more, having them in every episode as being the old elder statesman, of course. And I don't know, I think it just kept the heart of the show. Without that, I feel like it would have flopped.
It wouldn't have worked because it is Red and Kitty's house. That's it. That's the staging area of the whole show. Every episode is at their house.
They could have still found a way to make a That 90s show without it being at their house.
But even then, I wouldn't have watched it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's what anchors it.
Yeah, but you had to have that. Terry, what's his name? Terry Tiller is the only guy returning back for this show out of the original 3 producers. I noticed that in the credits.
Bonnie Turner and Terry Turner.
Terry Turner is the only one returning. The other 2 have kind of stepped away, I guess, from what I read about it yesterday. So I can probably see like what he was trying to do with the show, because he was, the executive producer.
Yeah.
So you always get like a different taste when whoever's doing the show. Like, in those later seasons of that 70s show, it got a little weirder because you're getting so close to 1980. And with this one, it's set in 1996. And it's very tight. It's a very tight story.
Actually, it was July 95, sorry.
So like, it is very tight on the town and just Red and Kitty's house, like that 70s show was. But there were things happening within the first season, like Gerald Ford had just pardoned Nixon, which was a big part of season 1, because we have a whole episode about Red, dealing with, should I, make a point to say something when he's being told not to. 1995 America, there's some crazy shit going on that has happened already, or did it happen? Listen to the Cryptic Conspiracy Call when we talk about it. But shameless plug. But like, it's so tight knit that we don't have to worry about that. We're not going to hear about, is Bill Gates a fascist, or did he really blow up Oklahoma City, or you know what I'm saying? Like David Koresh and all them cultists got murdered by the government.
Right.
So like, we don't have to hear about that in little town America, Wisconsin. And that was a great thing. That was something that I was kind of worried about. How far are they going to go with it? Is it again? I don't want to say woke, but I want to say like too currenty.
Yeah.
On their bullshit.
What is playing? Oh, you somehow something you said made my Spotify start playing on my iPad. I don't know what the hell that was, but no, I absolutely agree. To me, it still kept a lot of the lighthearted humor.
Yeah,
it never really got too. None of the characters felt like their path got fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, not just to be that angry fucking nerd, but they didn't Last Jedi anyone.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like opening was Leia, the main character. I'm not a fan of hers. She's too uptight. Like, for someone being the daughter of Eric Foreman and Donna Pinciotti, why does she have this fucking anxiety disorder about these people? At no point did she not meet people when she went to her grandma's house, because she's only been gone for 6 months.
Yeah, so we'll dive into that a little bit further.
But it doesn't make sense why she would be like that.
No, and I do agree. I think what really I differ a little bit. I liked her a lot. I think the reason I liked her was she had a lot of Topher Grace's mannerisms. She got the face down really well. Like, there was a lot of times she would make like a surprise face and it looked like Topher when he was younger. So they got a very good representation of what a kid between Eric and Donna would look like. And I did initially think about that, but as I was at work the other day, just some YouTube, of course, serves me up that 70 show videos now because this is back out. And the person I was listening to was using a lot of clips for the first 2 seasons. Eric was a nervous wreck. He was very much the same. He was kind of uptight, mama's boy, not very sure. This was just uptight daddy's girl. It's like, she wanted to be free, and she finally got a taste of what that free was because of the environment Eric probably created, feeling that way as a teenager and trying to, comfort and try to create a safe space for that and everything else. Because you saw him throwing out, Star Wars lines at her and everything, kept calling her his little buddy. That household was the polar opposite of what he grew up in. It's not very surprising to me that she would have anxiety about doing things that are outside of a 15-year-old comfort zone. It's like, for a fucking 15-year-old, she did a lot over this summer break. What did I do during my summer vacation? Well, in the first day, fucking climbed a water tower, drank a bunch of beer, and made 5 new friends. So it's like, I don't know, that part of the characterization really didn't feel off to me. There was a few continuity errors just within the first episode that did cause me pause. So one of the new characters, his name is Jay. And you find out in the middle of the first episode, his name is Jay Kelso. Yes. Fucking, they bred. And I have a theory that one of the other kids is another one of Kelso's like bastard sons, but I don't know. I have a feeling they might go that direction. Either way, you find out his name is Jay Kelso, and the way you find out is because Leia is walking through the kitchen with Jay. Red stops him and says, "Who the hell is this?" And he goes, "I'm Jay." He kind of looks at him confused. He goes, "Jay Kelso?" And he's like, no. And then, the dad goes running in, burn, everything else. So at no point in time when Eric had a kid and Kelso had a kid, they never met, they never hung out. And the implication is that, Kelso and Jackie still live at Point Place, because a few times you hear Jay say, "Oh, in my family, we don't do this. Dad always told me, never make the first move. That way you lose all power," shit like that. So it's clearly they still live in town. And this isn't the first time that Leia's been to town. Did Eric just say, "Fuck all you guys," and just like completely disconnect from everyone?
I just assumed that with the whole conversation where you see Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher back, they talk about how they got remarried again.
Yes.
So I'm just imagining probably one of them stayed in Point Pleasant. Maybe Mila Kunis probably stayed.
Yeah.
And Kelso went off, because Kelso goes off all the time.
Yeah.
And especially at the tail end of that 70s show. He lives in Chicago at one point. He lives in fucking California at one point. So I think when Jay talks about his parents, he's not talking about them as in they're here. I think he talks about his parents more as, this is what people who are my parents say.
Right.
Like, my dad shows up every now and then, because when you hear them say, "Oh, we're getting remarried again. This is our second remarriage," I'm thinking they got married, got divorced, got remarried, got divorced, and getting remarried. This is their second remarriage.
Yes. This is the third time around.
Yeah, third time's a charm. And so I'm just thinking, like, maybe either Jackie or Kelso just leave.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the best that's going to happen.
I don't know. Maybe it is Jackie that left, because again, Jay a few times said, "Dad always told me this. Dad always told me that." And even when Ashton's character comes in, he's like, "Oh, so you got to meet my boy. He's got his, dad's looks and his mom's brains. Hey, you kids go have fun. When you jump in the lake, landing it just right. It feels like you're doing it with the lake." It felt like Jay is getting a constant feed of this day in and day out.
And that's kind of what brings you out of it, is when we first watched that 70s show, it's a group of 5 or 4 actually, or no, it's 4. So in the original, it's Eric, Donna, Hyde, and Kelso. Kelso has Meg. He brings Jackie along. He brings her along. She's always the fifth wheel.
And within 3 episodes, Fez was included.
And then you have Fez. Hey, this is the new guy. Let's befriend the new guy. And it kind of works out. But we still have the base 4. Those 4 are your prime people. And the problem with this show was it didn't have a prime cast. So when we introduced, she's meeting them for the first time. So are we. And we're meeting her for the first time. So there is no basis of relationship. Like you talk about those 2 guys being possible brothers. I don't see that. I see that as people who've been friends for a very long time. I see that as, oh, hey, this is my buddy, my best friend, and this is his half-sister. And this is my best friend's girlfriend. This is us. Us 4 are the mainstays. And now Ozzy moved to town. Now he's our friend. We're a core group, and now the main character is the outsider coming in instead of 4 main characters meeting 2 outsiders. So it kind of gives you a different vibe, and that's what I caught very early on. Same with, I was going to make the argument the same with the Star Wars characters in the new trilogy. She has anxiousness problems, nerdiness problems of Topher Grace. But she's also quick on the trigger, loses her shit like Hyde. We know she's athletic and strong because we get a kind of a preamble with Red mentioning that about Donna. You know, she's like, oh yeah, but your jumper's gotten good, almost like your mama.
Yeah.
And your others.
Because she's also pretty tall.
Yeah, but Donna was also athletic.
Yeah.
But we're getting those same dynamic with different characters. So what they're doing is mix-maxing traits, and just putting them in the whole character. So like your big dumb guy, like Kelso, is a big dumb guy. But Jake Kelso does dumb shit, but he's not necessarily dumb. He's very sincere, which is like Fez or Eric. The Asian girl, she is very intelligent. I'm about to say Meg, but like Jackie, but she's not abusive or toxic.
Jackie was pretty abusive and toxic.
That's what I'm saying. The new girl is not Jackie. The new girl, or not the Asian girl, is not Jackie. She's intelligent, but she's not super fucking toxic. She's not reining in on this one guy.
It feels like there's for their
I'm saying
age.
They're mixing and matching. They're mixing and matching enough to keep the characters fresh and new, which gives it a better taste because now we have someone like Red who's dealing with their bullshit. And he's just like, first of all, I've dealt with your kind before, the whole shaking finger kind of thing. I'll kick your ass.
Well, and it's actually interesting because the first episode is the one that was the most heavy with the cameos and, callbacks and everything. And it was probably the weakest episode for the kids overall. What did you think of all the mainstay cast that had their cameos? Like, what did you think of Eric and Donna and like their relationship with Kitty and Red?
Oh, it's perfect. It's what it would be. They live very far away because the whole crux of Eric Foreman, I need to get out of this goddamn town. And that's what he did. He met his dream. Yep. And he's a professor.
Teaching the religion of Star Wars.
Yeah. Which is perfect for the 90s. Like, you can have a bullshit job in the 90s. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody in the Discord can say, you could quit your job and go down the street and get another fucking job immediately. Yeah. That's what the 90s were all about. You had it. Yeah. It was perfect. Okay. There were some problems, but like, he did his dream. Donna
wrote a book.
And they read the reviews. They didn't read the book. They didn't read the book.
They read the review.
And there is a new dynamic with Kitty and Donna. Kitty's finally accepted Donna to a point where she wants her to call her mom. Yeah. Which is kind of weird. But going back to like season 6 and 7 of that 70s show, this red-headed whore took my baby.
Yeah. So it's like you see a little growth in Kitty, but at the same time, Donna's still kind of holding on to it a little bit. She's like, I don't know about that, Mrs. F.
And Red, I love Red because they kept the one mannerism about his daughter. to his granddaughter.
Yes.
The daughter can do no wrong, so therefore my granddaughter can do no wrong until it's proven in front of me.
Yes.
And then we have a problem. But only then. And you better be careful. But I love how, like, in like the first episode into the second episode, he just goes, it's not Leia's fault. It's Eric's fault. Yeah. Eric is to blame for this. And I love, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis coming back. Their dynamic is perfect. This
Just because they have like a genuine relationship.
Yeah, well, in real life, they're together. But like, it's genuinely toxic at the utmost when we meet Jay or Red meets Jay.
Yeah.
And I like they bring back some mannerisms of Kelso from the later seasons than they do from the early seasons. Especially the weird one where he just like sees Kitty at that party and he's just like, fuck, Mrs. Foreman, I never said this, but you're a fox. And like, it just makes her fucking day in that episode.
Yes.
And in the new episode, just like,
gives her
bam.
the big hug.
Oh God! And she fucking loses.
She's like, that
melting.
was warm and masculine.
And she just melts. And that's another play on the dynamic. The fucking 90s age dynamic is hilarious to me with the new kids with the older people. I wish they had wrote it a little bit differently on why she was there, other than like 4th of July weekend, coming down to hang out with the grandparents and deciding to stay. They kind of telegraph a whole different thing in the first episode where she goes across, next door to see her friend, the girl that becomes her friend. And it comes off as like, oh, she's gay. That's what I got. That's what they telegraphed in the first episode.
You got that?
Because she's watching a girl dance behind some bushes who's in her own fucking house. It's gay as shit. Even the girl, that's why she's so confrontational when she opens the window. What the fuck are you doing? She's like, oh, nothing. I'm just watching you dance in your house, and I want it to be you. What the fuck? That only goes one or two ways. Either she's attracted to her or she wants to kill her and beat her.
I mean, if your dad was Eric... You'd probably want to murder too. No. But no, one glaring omission from this show, though, is Hyde in every sense of the word. Not a passing mention, not even a, hey, has anyone heard from him? Nothing.
I understand Danny Masterson is a piece of shit. I understand that. We can acknowledge that, but we can separate the man from the character for 5 goddamn minutes to say
he doesn't have to show up.
Yeah, we can say, oh shit, Hyde. Yeah, man, he's been living in fucking Oregon, man, trying to get weed legalized.
That, or he's been locked up the last 10 years. Something,
just something. And I wouldn't even want to made it a negative. I would have made it a positive. Because it would have been something about the character, not the man. Okay, yeah. It's about celebrating the art from the artist again. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to hear. Like at some point when I saw the girl, the next door neighbor, I thought, is that Hyde's kid? Because at that point we didn't see the mom, and I can only assume because later seasons of that '70s show, Hyde's dad is black. His half sister is black. He just doesn't happen to look like that, and that happens. Could it have skipped it?
But genes are a weird thing.
Yeah, and yeah, that could be his bastard daughter. We don't know.
And see, I feel like they created it to where it's open-ended enough to where if Danny is able to clear his name, because I don't think like by the time they were filming it, any charges had been officially, named. I think they set it up to where if he got his name cleared and like somehow he got cleaned up in the public eye, all of those mentions that the other kid is her half brother, and seeing how much that their mom was kind of trailer trashy, it would not put it past me that he wound up banging her for a while, dipped town, and didn't realize he had a daughter. Like it wasn't malicious.
A Forrest Gump situation.
Exactly. He just bounced and didn't realize. And that could possibly open up something for a season 2 or 3 if they continue this, to bring the character back for him to have some sort of moment and be like, look, I know how it is to have a dad fucking up and leave. And all of a sudden, boom, now it's hitting us because we saw him go through that journey. And all of a sudden, he's inadvertently done it to his own kid.
And like that's just that's just the fan theory kind of situation.
It is, but I think that would actually make for, because 70s Show was never afraid to pull punches, with emotional stuff. That would be a big emotional arc. And I will say one of the things that felt very underwhelming to me is, again, we're not going to run this down episode by episode. We're just free-forming. Midway through, Leia finds out she actually likes Jay Kelso. And when Donna finds out, she doesn't freak out as much as I wanted her to. I wanted her to genuinely be like, you're not dating a Kelso. No. I know about him and his brother. I know this family. You're not dating a Kelso. I wanted her to freak out a little bit more, but she was more just like, I mean, I did bang his brother. It's just like, really?
Yeah, well, it's more of like understanding with age. They're a lot older now. Their kid is, she's probably a little bit more understanding than Eric would be, because Eric would be super protective anyway. But Donna, who lived in Point Pleasant as a woman. Point Place.
Yeah.
But being attracted to that person next door, as she was, and understanding that, the small town's going to run into a problem. That's why I kind of don't really care if that girl is Hyde's daughter, and it's just a character. I'm fine with that.
Oh, I am too, but it's like if we're doing Force Awakens bullshit, where it's just like,
everybody's the kid of something.
Finn is, the kid of Lando, and
is it because he's the only black man in space?
Shh, quiet. Silent racism, Star Wars, we allow.
He's an abandoned father. He abandoned his 2 children.
Yeah, well, he did wind up doing that. We find out in the last movie anyway. But no, this isn't a Star Wars episode, even though it was very Star Wars centric. I don't know though. Overall, I do agree with what you mentioned about the Disney show, Nickelodeon live action show vibe. It definitely had that. But as something as I mentioned, it felt like they filmed these episodes in order. Like it didn't feel like they jumped around a lot, because as the season went on, it felt like all of the characters felt more comfortable in their roles. All of the kids in the first episode it felt like a Mad TV skit. It's like everyone was just playing it on 10. And as the series went on, it felt like they kind of dialed back just a little bit, and everyone was kind of acting a little bit more normal. And that's when I started actually liking the characters, especially Ozzy. The first that was his name, right? Yeah. The first episode or two, I did not care for him, and I'm like, great. But by the end of it, they kind of honed in his timing. They honed in on how he said things, when he said things, and I think it got a lot better. And because of that, I would actually be really interested in a season 2 if the kids had acted like they did during episode 1 the entire time. I would have not enjoyed those.
Well, your pilot was probably, I don't know if it's filmed in order. I don't think it was. I think the pilot was filmed so far ahead of the rest of it. It was filmed very tight, probably on a schedule, just to get past production and get to like a small group of viewers to be like, hey, tell us what you think about this. What changes can we make? Hey, maybe one of those guys sitting, let's hear what Paul has to say. He's a stone cold motherfucker. I want to see what he's like. He seems very apathetic to everybody's plot. Let's get more dynamic between Leia and her new best friend. Let's do it a little bit differently. And I think they filmed the pilot and probably waited like 6 months and then finish the rest of it. That's why
Which would make sense.
That's why I think it feels more tight in the last 9 episodes as opposed to the first. I don't like 10-episode seasons. It's a fucking sitcom. You could have made 20 of these goddamn things.
That's true.
It's not that hard. Okay, if cable can do it, streaming can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it kind of felt like they were doing, aside from the first 2 episodes, it felt like each episode was each week. Because at one point when she gets caught at the rave, she gets grounded for a week. And then by the following episode, you see them all hanging out again. So it feels like, and they're like, oh, it's so glad to see you guys again from my sad hole, shit like that. So it feels like with each episode, they went a week, which if about maybe 8 to 9 weeks, that would be about a summer break, roughly. So,
but I don't know. That shit, that shit always bothers me with the newer stuff.
Right. I know what you mean.
Like, time isn't relative in fucking television and movies. So, like, we don't really know how many days has passed. That's why we get some shows with 40 fucking Christmas episodes. And it's like, you would be 100. You would literally be 100 years old by now. But, all of them together, they're perfect.
Yeah.
Each one has just enough history about them that kind of grounds them in reality. My favorite thing, though, about the show is the references.
The references were on point.
So you had made a comment during a part where Ozzy is trying to explain to the big guy how he looks in a situation when it comes to jealousy. I'm like, he's like, you're going to be the guy on Ricky Lake. You're going to be that, oh, you don't know me guy, and we've talked about reality television.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Ozzy, which is a pull from Jerry. But that didn't start till the late 90s because in the beginning, Jerry Springer wasn't that kind of show.
Yeah, right.
But Sally Jesse Raphael was. And that's why he's wearing those red rim glasses. And I'm just like, oh no, he's the Ricky Lake daytime trash TV guy, because I remember watching that when I was little,
right,
and seeing these people just be terrible to each other.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. They don't want to know you.
None of them know you.
None of them know you. And they're still going to boo you, you dumb motherfucker. And like, just a handful of comments here and there. We get the age of the internet, and they get their little e-machine or whatever the fuck, and it's got the shitty dial up, and we hear the noise that I wish I had never heard to begin with in my life, because that's the universal. If I had it as a ringtone, I'd have it as a ringtone.
That's an alarm clock.
No.
Oh man, make that your fucking alarm clock. You'll just spring out of fucking bed.
No, I'll probably sleep through it thinking I was dreaming in the 90s. I'm thinking about trying to hit the Windows 98 not working. Tap, 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 tap.
It don't work.
It don't work. Who's using the fucking phone? Which
Mom!
Mom! But yeah, it's like so those subtle references.
Clerks.
And even the subtleties made to the house. So they have the corded phone still, but now they have the cordless phone available, which had range.
Yeah, especially when you extended out that antenna. And
then the whole like slamming the antenna down because you're pissed, because everybody knows that's what phones are for. When they created the wireless telephone that they have now, you can't like just go, I'm done with that motherfucker.
No, because then you just crack $2,000 on a table.
Yeah, but back in the day, it was bam, slam it on the ringer or slam it on the table. Or
I mean, even during cell phones, when you had the flip phones, snapping it closed, so satisfying.
Now you can't. Now you can get an app for that. There's actually an app where you can like slam a phone on somebody. But it was good enough changes from a house built probably in the 60s, late 50s. To now, they still had the recess fucking
island
living room.
Oh yeah.
Where you step down, which they need to bring back.
Yeah,
they need to bring that back. Just hanging out, and you just walk up, and it's like, hey man, step down, hang out. It was nice. The coolest thing was the basement. The basement looked almost untouched. It looked like Kitty had kept it that way perfectly. And you had mentioned they had moved the old furniture from the 70s down into the basement, and you really see that with the chair, because Red's chair was Red's chair. One of the best moments is Hyde and Fez walking through the living room past Red, and him just like, where the fuck are you two going? And he's just like, Hyde doing this whole conspiracy bullshit and talking about microchips, and all I could think of was just Red saying, if the government wanted to stick a microphone up your ass, you will thank them
and sing "God Bless America."
But like that's what that reminds me of. It's just like, okay, now it's the changing of the guard a little bit, and then we see the biggest thing in the late 80s to early 90s, the mall.
Yes,
which probably didn't exist.
No,
at all.
No.
All you had was burnt out factories where they could hang out in water towers.
No, and I thought that was a cool change, but that will bring me to maybe one of my other negatives, since I've said a bunch of positives. When you watch that 70s show, you immediately know it's the 70s. There was a few times watching this, it wasn't grabbing me what era they were in. It was almost kind of era-less. It's like, this could be the 80s, this could be the 70s, this could be the thousands, but it's probably the 90s. There wasn't a whole lot of over characterization of the 90s, which I think I kind of went into looking for, because even that 70s show is the 70s looked at through rose tinted glasses, you know. So it's like none of the kids had like a Game Boy, you know, that they were kind of like fucking around with in the corner while another character was talking. You know, they didn't really talk about current cartoons that much. I mean, we had a Free Willy reference and, you know, a reference to being able to rent Beauty and the Beast on VHS. That was kind of the end of the pop culture cartoony, you know, references. And, you know, I know at least a couple of those kids in there would have been interested in playing video games and shit. This is back when video games were being revived, you know. It's like, you know, it just did not feel like the rose-tinted 90s feel that I would have thought they went with. I don't think
they didn't show enough because it's not long enough. Okay? You're trying to tell a story about these characters, you know, with interpersonal relationships between themselves. You're not going to have a lot of time to spread that out when you're trying to get more 90s references in, like more references in. So like even when you talk about video games, the only time I remember video games being an issue in that 70s show when it was between Kelso and Red, with the Atari 2600.
Well, also video games weren't, you know, they weren't that big in the 70s either. That was pretty niche.
Yeah, but you got
95.
But you got to remember, that's not her house.
That's why I mentioned the Game Boy.
But like I know you did, but like Kitty says it in passing, no television, no Nintendo and stuff like that. So they have it, but I think they're just not going to feature a bunch of it because they didn't have enough time. You know, they spend 5.5, 6 hours of content out of 10 episodes, maybe,
yeah, roughly, yeah,
maybe, because the pilot seemed a little bit longer, but maybe in season 2. I could see them pulling out all the stops a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because this one's just about establishing shots, histories, communications, and stuff like that.
And maybe I wasn't making myself clear. I wasn't necessarily saying they needed to spend time on that kind of stuff. But, like, for instance, you know, in 70s show, you know, in the background, hell, Kelso would have, like, those little Timco Bowl, you know, things. Or, you know, he'd be, like, messing with a rubber band in the background, you know, shit like that. You know, yeah, maybe have, you know, Ozzy sitting in the corner when he's not talking, just playing his, you know, Game Boy. They don't have to spend any time about him talking about it. It's just that visual thing.
I just understand. But
so what you're saying is, you know, they already spent so much time doing all this other stuff. That takes no time. That's set dressing. You know, that's something happening in the background while other characters are continuing to do their thing. And those are the moments when it just didn't feel as 90s to me. And that's why it kind of felt decade-less. And I think that was my main problem with it, because that 70s show was super 70s. Everywhere you looked, it was like, the real 70s was not like this. You know, it's like, this is cartoon 70s.
Oh, I remember directly watching that 70s show from season 1 and seeing a lot of stuff from the 60s.
Yeah.
So, like, when they're trying to show the 70s in, like, style and art, yeah, it's still late 60s, you know, but I chalk that up to the setting itself of the town. That's a poor town. Point Place, Wisconsin is a small, poor town on the Great Lakes. Not everybody's going to have every 90s shit, you know, or every 70s shit. When we meet Red, he's a hardworking guy. Later on, he loses his motherfucking job. In the 90s, Point Place, same fucking thing could happen. You know, it's a tiny town. There are very Wisconsin-y things happening, which is always like the Green Bay Packers shirts and stuff like that, people joking. And I love that because that adds to the set dressing of the town. They go back to the hub. The
water tower.
And the water tower. What do you see in the background of the hub? You see a newer arcade machine. You see a newer jukebox. You know, you see a layout that's more 90s than it was 70s, you know. And, like, there isn't much difference between the 70s and 90s when it came to stuff like the hub. You know, you're still going to have your paper cups, paper plates, stuff like that. Business as usual, as opposed to casual, willy-nilly, like, getting it too fucking retro looking. And I think that's probably something the producers were looking at, was like, I don't want this to look so fucking retro. It brings you out of it.
Right.
Like, the 80s show did that too hard.
way too hard.
And I think they did it with moderation, just enough. And we talked about it during the show. Hey, they still have the same fridge. They still have the same washing machine and dryer.
Which makes sense.
Because it's going to run forever and a day. My grandma had a fucking washing machine that was older than my fucking mom.
And they still had the old Vista Cruiser, which in an episode you find out that Leia receives. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, was that what Donna and Leia were driving away in at the last episode?
No, they're driving a Toyota.
So Red gives her the car, and it's just like, but you can only drive it when you're here.
Yeah. Well, no, that was the whole point of him going to the DMV to get it re-registered, because the tag went out in 1980.
Yeah.
So it's been either sitting there or he's been using it as a pickup vehicle to buy his weird shit. Because we find out later that Red's a hoarder.
He's a hoarder, and he's also taken up gardening.
Yep. But he's also very frugal. To quote him in the new 90s show, I bought that from Sears in 1964, full price. And it was a jacket Jay had found. And it was a cool jacket. I thought they were going to say something fucked up like, oh, it's probably Kelso's jacket that he left in the car.
Yeah.
And it probably had more weed in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's something else. They smoked dilapidated weed.
They smoked
weed from 1979.
Yeah, I was going to say.
At latest.
To give it as much leeway as possible, yes. 1979 weed. More likely 78 weed when Eric moved out, but...
No, those kids were wheeling and dealing in that basement after he left.
True.
That was another thing. They still brought that back. The casualness of where Kitty and Red let children in and out of their house.
Well, it's sparked by Eric, which I thought was great because he and Red had kind of been doing their playful back and forth the whole time. Eric, threatened to put his foot up, lay his ass, and that caused the whole thing.
That was the high point.
That was
How about
so
I put my
great.
foot up your ass?
And but through all that, just to finally get one final jab, and he turns around and he goes, and Leia, while you're here, I want you to invite your friends to hang out in Grandpa's basement as much as they want. He's like, no. And Kitty turns around right on time. Well, it's going to be the safest place for them to be. And he's like, she is totally right, Dad. He's like, well played, thanks.
And because when we see him again, they're in basically the Pinciotti's basement.
Yeah,
which
we never got to see.
We never really saw. Yeah, we really saw the house. We actually get a weird angle of the house in this one. I don't know if you noticed how different the Pinciotti's house. It looks like it got bigger.
Yeah, the Pinciotti's house. Well, it was always the bigger one because Bob always kind of had that little that leg up on Red, so he had a little bit of the nicer house.
Like you remember the kitchen setting where Donna and Eric are trying to tell, we got to tell Bob we had sex.
Yeah. It felt pretty small.
Yeah, it felt very small because it was a kitchen table, a stove, and like the bar.
They had the really big living room.
Yeah, but like when we see the kitchen again, now there's an island and a kitchen table, and it's just like.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot more renovated than the foreman's house.
And I will say, we introduced the landlord later on of that house. I don't know if you know anything about that guy who plays him. That guy has so many Golden Globes and People's Choice Awards because he's created some of your most favorite shows on television.
Yeah.
He's actually a producer in 4 shows. He shows up as a character actor in a lot of stuff, but he's been involved with everything under the sun from like Roseanne, Friends, the newer shows like 2.5 Men, stuff like that. He has been involved with all those kind of shows, and he's been in sitcoms since the early 90s. And he was the dean in Community too. So like he is very flamboyant. But when he's in the show, I'm just like, did he help make this goddamn show? And I looked at it, he did. Yeah. He helped make the show. And it's really cool seeing him in it because he's such a fucking hilarious actor. And
he was the reason he and Fez had a relationship or a background is he was the old jewelry shop owner. And they were going through a big back and forth near the end of the seasons. I think he was going to propose to Jackie. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like that was the diamond store clerk that was just giving him a bunch of shit the entire time about like, oh, you wanted that one? Oh, okay. And he's like, what's wrong with that one? Just like the constant back and forth. And now he's a real estate owner.
And speaking of Fez, great pull.
Oh,
the way they did him, that's what you would see Fez as.
Still a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Another thing is when he's talking to Kitty, he's telling a story about him and Meg or Jackie.
I can't tell if you're doing that on purpose or not.
Shut up, Meg. But he's telling a story about how he was with Jackie. And I got the feeling that was probably during the 80s. Mm-hmm. And he talked about why they broke up. And Kitty was vested in the story. And he tells her he called her on the phone with Michael. and that kind of did it in.
Dukakis?
Dukakis, yeah.
Dukakis?
Yeah. And that was another pull, like 90s pull. You know, at that time, he was running for president. You know, and it's just like Jackie was that high up in like the social status, just like her dad was. Her dad was
to where Kitty thinks that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. But no, she was calling Michael Kelso, and it was perfect because now we have a little bit more backstory about our old core group of people.
Yeah.
And like we said before, I would have loved just 2 lines of passing from Red. Oh no, Hyde, you know, and I wanted it to be positive. Like if they were going to do it, make it positive.
It's just hard to say to a rapist.
Talk about the character of Hyde.
I know, but it's still hard to kind of give it a solid send off to someone like that. I know separating the actor from the art, I totally get that, but at the same time, I think they just did the right thing of just not even mentioning it. But that way, neither side has anything to say.
Yeah, but like the same thing can be said about Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. Like, do I really want to see a fucking heroin addict get another chance? No. But but Kevin Smith, he did because they gave him a fucking chance. I'm not saying giving Hyde a chance, but I'm saying just
but I was gonna say
let the character go in a positive light. That way you separate it from reality, because that's the whole point we're watching the fucking show.
Yeah, but I still don't want to go and said that we're comparing someone that messed up their own life with drugs compared to someone that messed up other people's lives with his actions. I still wouldn't say the Jay comparison is very apples to apples on that one.
but what I'm saying is, you had a character. Please understand this.
I understand
the character part.
I fully do
so
understand
like Topher Grace in real life is a fucking prick.
Oh yeah.
Tobey Maguire, the biggest prick. And like I could see him getting killed as Spider-Man. I would have been positive. I mean, like
I still love the story of the guy that was played Eddie Brock, and he told the story of like someone was like trying to pay me to like actually punch Topher Grace. Why does Tom Maguire? He's like, but I didn't want to be like that guy. If I was that guy that did it, and it's like, you know, and they were like, no one would say anything. And he's like, and I even looked over at the lighting director, and he like gave me a silent nod.
And another thing is, I would have liked just a little bit more out of Kelso, because he was that 70s show.
Yes.
You know, you can't. You know, we talk about Eric Foreman, but like Kelso is the close second. He is. You know, such a maniacal character almost. This is so funny. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, his son plays that way. You know, Jay does have those mannerisms. Like, you brought it up during the second episode where he's just trying to swoon this girl. And it kind of goes awry.
Yeah.
He can't keep himself still. And I love Kitty. Kitty is the perfect thing to bring back. You know, if something had happened to Kurtwood Smith, I could see that this would have been a challenge, but they still could have done it.
Yeah.
Bob coming back was the biggest surprise for me, because, you know, he's a good actor, and he's a steady working actor from what I found out. But him still having that awkwardness, that old Wisconsin-esque vibe, because Red doesn't have it. Red doesn't have an accent. He's just an aggressive man. Kitty is the Midwestern nice woman, because we get a lot of that in this episode, or in that one episode when they steal the car, or when they go to the rave and they're trying to break the kid down, and she just sits with them and gives them there's the honey as opposed to the vinegar, you know. And that lying bitch. That's what she said, you know, that lying bitch. And she's like, now that's the Kitty we want to see, because we only get snippets of that every once in a while in the season. And of course, the great one, and she's like, a car show? I don't want to go to a fucking car show. And it's just like, beep, beep, beep. Dumbass. Yeah, dumbass.
No, and so what you were saying earlier about you would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Michael Kelso, I absolutely agree. And I also feel like they missed out on a really interesting moment, which I hope they kind of play into in season 2, because I feel like this is good enough to get a second season. I feel like the second season may be even better because as they've had more time to work with it.
That's a different question. Would they do a second season?
I'd like them to.
Oh yeah, I would love them to, but like, it's Netflix, so
yeah. Taking that out of it, if it was strictly from, you know, audience reaction, I feel like they would make a second season. I want scene. I want an episode even, because I feel like they could work this into some weird, awkward episode of Michael and Eric having to deal with the fact that their kids are now dating. I feel like just that is a starting point and go. Could be an entire episode.
Yeah.
Like having to sit there and deal with watching Leia and Jay being all cutesy with each other. And like, because she has so many of Eric's mannerisms and Jay has so many of Michael's mannerisms, seeing like their bro relationship be like physical, I feel like that could be like kind of weird and awkward, and they would have to like deal with that oddly as dads.
I think it would just be another parody of when Donna and Eric are together, where Bob is trying to be like brothers with fucking Red.
Yes.
He's just like, well, Red, we're going to be, related now. And Red's like, shut the fuck up. Just like, it's going to be that conversation.
Exactly. It's like, I just feel like that would be really funny though, especially because Ashton did not miss a beat with Kelso from the moment he walked in, just yelling burn to joking about Red's vein in the forehead and just like landing the lake the right way. It feels like you're doing it with the lake. The mannerisms, the way he delivered the lines, not a beat was missed. And that, I feel like we almost kind of had one of the Star Wars moments on that. Between all of that, we did not get a reunion between Eric and Michael. And it was like, that sucks. They were there the whole time, and literally the day after Donna and Eric leave is when Michael shows up. That supposedly lives in town anyway. And so it's just like, that's again, but that just falls back to what I was talking about earlier in the episode. It's just like, how is it that like all of these people, like seriously, as soon as that 70s show ended, did everyone just immediately quit talking to each other? Because it just does feel weird that Eric and both Michael had kids, and not once did they like hang out as like dads, and then like having Leia meeting Jay. That's the only bit of the show that kind of took me out of it. So it's just like, it really feels like that would have happened.
I think they're just limited on history content. That's the problem with doing a whole show that's 2 decades apart.
Yeah,
is like you got to feel a decade's worth of material of backstory within flashback sentences, and even then you're still trying to keep it relative and funny with 90s retrospective propaganda.
Here we go. Fix it like we do with the Star Wars stuff. Fix it with one line of dialogue. When she meets Jay for the first time in the basement, he's like, I'm Jay. She goes, Jay, wait, aren't you my dad's like friend's kid? I feel like we hung out as kids. Boom, like one little thing, like, and then she could have been like, you've grown, then boom, it's right back into it. So they could have done that with one, like Jay, you're Jay? Oh my god, I hadn't seen you since like yada yada yada.
I don't think they're going to get a second season, not because it wasn't good, but because of the way Netflix is going. I could see this being a Fox property issue where Fox would say, yeah, we'll pay for it, which is basically Disney, but I could see that going to Hulu next if they were going to do it, but I don't see it being renewed for a second. Sadly, I don't see it being renewed for a second season. I think there's going to be a lot of kickback on some certain things they did.
Like what?
The gay thing. Really? Us, it's not a big fucking issue, but older people who watch that 70s show are going to see that and just get up their own ass about it. They did it very well. I will say that. Watching I
thought that was really good, though.
The whole Kitty thing was perfect. That's what Kitty would have done. That's how we always known the mom to be.
Yeah, because Ozzy's sitting on the couch with her and he goes, I'm gay, and I even have a boyfriend that lives in Canada. And she goes, oh, honey, I had a friend that dated a guy in Canada, drove away with her car, yada, yada, yada.
And her father's ashes in the back.
Yeah. And he's like, you're not... Wait.
No, just stay away from Canadians.
Yeah. She's like, no. Oh, honey, I don't care that you're... Oh, come here. And just gave him this big hug. And like,
I'm not a gay basher. I'm a bigot against Canadians.
Yeah. Canadians are fucking weird. You just go date another guy.
But I would have loved it with Red.
Yeah.
Because Red's one advice would probably be like, women will ruin your life. That would be his statement. They will ruin your fucking life. And
Red strikes me as one of those, as like when he found out about being like someone being gay for like the first time, you know, he probably had like that moment of like, what? And then like 2 minutes later being like, I wasn't that gay. That would have been a lot
not
easier.
like that, but like,
you know, like, damn, they can make that work.
because that does happen. He ends up having gay neighbors.
Yeah.
And it's the two guys from the Brady Bunch.
Yes. And he's just like, you mean y'all just hang out all day and drink beer and watch the game? Shoot.
And that's life.
Yeah. It's like, cheers to you.
But you know, I think it's going to get pushed back a little bit, and like on just the smallest level of a part of an audience that probably wouldn't have watched the show anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to get renewed. I hope it does. I really do. If Netflix does it, it's going to fucking astonish me. If they take too long to announce these things, and they take even longer to tell you they're going to cancel these things.
Yeah.
So with the Witcher series, they got one season coming out with Henry Cavill, which will be the last one that they filmed. After that, I don't think it's going to work out. Same with all these other shows. Wednesday show, they announced season 2. I think that'll be the last season of that. Inside Job, fucking home run. Y'all fucked that up. So, sadly, that's like on a real level, that's how I feel about it. It didn't astonish me enough to be like, yeah, let's do another season. But I hope so, because I want to feel out for these characters. You know, want to see what happens. But
now,
realistically, I don't see it happening.
My prediction on that is, I actually do think they'll get a second season. Because just kind of listening to different interviews with like Deborah Jo Rope and his name just escaped me. Kurtwood Smith. Listening to interviews with them,
RoboCop.
They got executive producer credits, and someone asked them, you know, so like, how was it like, you know, kind of being producer? And both of them kind of chuckled, and they're like, well, everything kind of came together so fast that, you know, we'll see if that means anything come season 2. Meaning like they just kind of got added on that probably for just extra money. So they didn't have as much of a hand and say, but they were saying it in a way of like, we would have time if we do a season 2. So I know it's at least been discussed internally. And seeing everything else that gets renewed, I would like to see it happen. Do I think it was a home run show? No. But at the same time, I dare anyone to go back and watch season 1 of that 70s show and go, this is a perfect season. They really didn't find their footing until like the 3rd or 4th season. Then it was like everything was firing on all cylinders. And those are the episodes that everyone remembers is from that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th season. So I feel like this was, with all its weaknesses, strong enough to at least keep me interested for a season 2. Now, if season 2 rolls around and it feels just like more of the same, I might not be as invested for season 3 because there's only so much they can do with it. But I feel like this was a perfect kind of tribute to what 70s show was. Without it copying too many tropes, aside from, you know, oh no, we got a keg of beer, we need a tap. But it plays out completely differently. You know, not that unreasonable to believe that teenagers 15, 20 years apart happen upon another keg.
And you had mentioned continuity errors. I only had one, which was the flat beer keg. That old boy just lifts it up like it wasn't shit. And this ain't a pony keg, folks. This is a full-on keg of beer. It's flatter than hell, but it's still a keg of beer.
A homeboy's just picking it up, waltzing around with it like
we
it's
hear
nothing.
that motherfucker slam on the stairs.
Yeah.
Doom, 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 kicks the door open. And he just picks that shit up and is holding it casually. Now, he is strong as shit.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. He is strong as shit. So the whole workout episode to Pantera. Like, yeah, that's 90s as fuck right there, boy.
And the 90210 jokes.
Oh, yeah. And they brought back the guy from 90210, which kind of made it kind of weird.
Yeah.
We see Kitty with Fez again, which she just loses it. Oh yeah. She's a tramp. Kitty's a tramp. She's got a fucking whore tattoo on her wrist.
Yes, she now has a cat tattoo. She's now Kitty officially.
Yeah, Kitty. And she's fucking dangerous. She's a dangerous person because she almost kills Jay.
And I think probably the aspect of the show I enjoyed the most was Red. Because Red absolutely feels like what that character would be 15, 20 years on. Because he is now retired, so he doesn't have to work with the general public anymore. The kids are gone, so he doesn't have to deal with
Their
the
bullshit.
dumbasses all day. All of a sudden, a lot of his stress is gone. So he's going to be a little bit of a different guy. He's going to be a little bit more calm, a little bit more reserved. And he was to a point, and Kitty even calls him on that. And she's like, you know, I haven't seen the fire in your eyes since the late 70s when the kids left. You know, it's nice seeing you alive. What are you going to do? Just sit here and wither away? You know, I like having the house full again, and it's nice seeing you being active again. Though we do find out that his one weakness is the new massage chair.
At the Sharper Image.
And I love the transition of like he's sitting on that chair dealing with, which winds up kind of being Kitty's new foil. Like Bob was Red foil. This new neighbor is kind of like Kitty's having to deal with person. But no, he's just sitting there chilling the whole time. She's like, all right, Cherry, I need to talk to the real Red. Unplugs it. And as soon as she unplugs it, damn it, Kitty. It's just right back in it.
I didn't like the whole it's raining inside, so now Red has nothing to do aspect. I didn't like that. It seemed like little poor writing where he's fixing everything around the house. That seems like that one thing all producers do with television shows with dads. It's just like, oh, he has nothing to do except for fix the house. It's like,
I thought that was because he messed his hip up.
he did mess his hip up, but he couldn't go out and do stuff. And I hate when they do that. It's the trope that's so fucking stupid. If you hate your husband, just say you fucking hate him. I'm serious. Like I'm serious. They need to fucking stop doing this with certain people on television shows where they're either just a sit around drunk and work and just come home. Make them a dad. You know, make Red like he was. You know, Red did shit. Even when he was hurt, he did shit.
Which he did. He went to the neighbor's house and fixed shit up.
Yeah, but I'm talking about not that. Not some stupid trope you do for a TV dad.
Right.
Which is played too much. This is something I really have a big problem with television shows. And we'll do it on another episode. But, like, that is, like...
Ooh, that would be a good main topic. Bad tropes.
But, yeah, stupid tropes dads do. And, like... You know, he only parents when it counts, you know, kind of stupid shit. You know, you're relying too much on the other parent. It's ridiculous. What did you think of the soundtrack of the series? Like, we didn't get much, but it was just enough.
It was just enough. Honestly, it was a lot better than I was expecting. A lot of songs I kind of recognized. One of the first songs you really hear in this is a song by the Muffs, Sad Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that really surprised me because I kind of like the Muffs. I don't like a lot of 90s music. I don't like a lot of grunge, but they were pretty good.
They did the trailing song at the end, too.
Yes, they did. So I kind of like that. And then you got Pantera, which I'm not a big fan of Pantera, but it fit for the moment.
But when it catches, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, so it's like, even as not a Pantera fan, it felt very much of the moment. One of the things that we haven't discussed that also plays into the music, probably the biggest example of the music we got were the bumpers or the transition scenes. So before it was, you know, really groovy with the keyboards and, you know, heavy guitar work. Yeah, and then it's like, you know, you've got them like doing like dances with flowers going behind them. This time, I didn't like the graphics they were using. The graphics department, it felt kind of cheap. I think the cutaway moments in 70s show looked a lot better produced. This looked a lot cheaper, but the music fit perfect because there was a lot more genre that was used in these transition scenes. One may have been a heavier rock grunge kind of, you know, maybe arena rock thing. But then the next one, it was almost like...
It was like a hip hop.
Exactly. Yeah. Then the next one was a little bit more groovier, you know, maybe a little bit more, you know, street hip hop instead of like radio hip hop. It's like, and then you even had moments of like acoustic, you know, jams kind of sectioned in between. So they kind of hit a lot more of that broader spectrum of the music choices. So that part kind of kept me in. I think I may just kind of fall back to my biggest gripe with the whole thing was it just didn't feel 90 cartoon enough. Like 70s show felt like a 70s cartoon in real life. this to me didn't feel very 90s cartoon in real life. And I understand maybe some of the reasonings for it, as you mentioned, like Point Place being a small, kind of lower class town, not going to have as many of the things, which is fine. That didn't take away too much from the show. I was just maybe kind of hoping for a little bit more of that fantasized bit. Maybe as a wrap up on here, since we know this was set in July 95, with that time frame in mind, and let's just say they get renewed, like big hypothetical, they get renewed to the point they can play out the 90s. In that 70s show, we had specific moments in the 70s that these characters celebrated, whether it be like Star Wars in theaters, seeing a specific band on a specific tour. What would you like them to tackle for mid to late 90s pop culture for them to all be excited about?
Excited?
Or just like an episode plot point?
Well, I gotta double check the date. How I would end it would be the 1999 trailer for the new Star Wars.
Oh.
And Eric just losing his shit. And that's how I would end it. It's just like, hey, Dad, check this out. And they're just at a movie theater and they're just watching some random movie and then, and it's just like that.
Yeah.
So, like, I can see that kind of happening. There's not much in the 90s newsworthy other than, like the president, the OJ trial, shit like that. So like newsworthy enough,
Well, I meant from a pop culture standpoint.
I know, but that's part of the pop culture is what was happening. So like maybe like I think Kurt Cobain died in 1994, so I think that would have been a big plot point. So, but I'm not sure that one. In mid 90s is so hard because you're coming off the tail end of the AIDS crisis. And you're still waiting for 9/11. So like, there's a lot of stuff.
Beautiful phrasing.
So like, but like, there's a lot.
We're waiting for this.
Like, from 1995 to 1999, you don't got a lot of big shit. It was a murmur for the United States. We're in a surplus. There isn't a fucking recession. All right. World-wise, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
And the world is different. Kosovo got invaded. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that was going on in the world. But pop culture-wise, the changing of rap was happening in the late 90s. You had people like Ice Cube, Ice-T, Snoop Dogg all changing. You had the violence that came with that. You had country music, which was changing from the old guard into people like Shania Twain, Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire. You have all that. Music itself changed. The dying of rock and roll kind of happened in the late 90s. Around that time, we get the break-off genres that are categorically terrible. Grunge was still big, but that's all early 90s, Metal had kind of died out by then. Your hair metal had kind of ruined that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a lull. The worst thing they could cover was probably Columbine that happened in 1999.
All right, let me help you out some because I thought of a few.
If you say the 64, I'm going to lose it.
No. Well, it's any game console. It could be a Sega system. One of the kids is just dying to get the fucking system, and then shit goes down at the mall between everyone because it's like I don't want to go by myself. Someone come with me.
But that's another thing I didn't say was. I think they're too old. I think they would be too old to give a shit.
Really?
Because
15?
they're all up in their own asses about sex and drugs. Like, that's all they want to do. They just want to hang out, get high, and fuck. They don't even want to go to school. They don't want to go to school.
What kid wants to go to school?
But the Asian one. A matter of fact. But, like, they're having the same problem as Eric and Don and all them had was thinking about what's outside of Point Pleasant, and I don't think they would really care.
Point Place.
Whatever. The Mothman's there. The Mothman's there.
I know, you're just so stuck on that.
But yeah, so I just don't think they would really give a shit because I just don't think they do. They don't seem like they have initiative enough to be into that.
Even the goofy one that I feel like is Kelso's bastard son.
Probably if you wrote him to be like some type of savant when it comes to him, like you could do a whole episode that holy shit, this guy's really good at this fucking one game.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't strike you. when you look at him and you don't think he's the kind of guy that would waste like $20 on a Mortal Kombat arcade game.
No.
You know, some of those kids to me do. Another plot point I feel like they could do is Kiss did their reunion in 1996. And that could be a reason for all the gang to get back. Oh my God, guys. Kiss is getting back together because it's already canon that Eric was a big fan of Kiss. I could see that being a plot point of him trying to get everyone back together to go see the Kiss show that's happening at Point Pleasant.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun to get Kiss involved. Mm-hmm. You know, get them involved.
Yeah. And they could probably, because the timeless, nature of the makeup,
But watching it, I'm not seeing anything that stands out in my mind that they would be into, because they're in a unique spot from 15 to 18, going on to 19 and 20, that they're going to be focused on themselves a lot, just like the original crew were. You know, they pop culture wise, other than going to the movie theater and a bunch of shows, we didn't really get a lot of stuff that specifically interested them and stayed continuous. And that was the problem I had with it was, all right, so you're telling me Red and Kelso hung out and played Pong and just did that for like a week? No. Those motherfuckers are monsters. They get hyper-focused because him and Kelso are exactly the same. They get hyper-focused on stuff. So, I don't know, man. I hope they do. I hope they hit some kind of pop culture's, zeitgeist. Yeah. Eventually, but
and actually, you know what? Leia strikes me as one that would probably be into video games. Boom. Here's a plot point. She wants to wait and get the new video game, but everyone's kind of poking at her for being a girl that wants to play video games, because that was still seen as such a male-dominant thing in the mid-90s. So I could maybe even see that as the plot point. She's the nerdy kid to Eric. Eric would have definitely wanted a new game system. So if she shares so much of his kind of weird nerdiness, maybe she wants the new Sega system and is going to have to camp out and wait for it. And she's trying to get Jay to maybe stay. And he's just like, no, I don't play video games. That shit's dumb. So that even could be a plot point. I was just kind of thinking of stuff that was a lot more kind of 90s centric that they could just kind of put the kids through, much like waiting in line for concert tickets, that we got in that 70s show. What replaces the concert? Raves. They're more interested in going to raves. You don't have to really do much with that. They already did it though. What did other kids do? There was a bunch of lines waiting for those Sega consoles and those Nintendo consoles. PlayStation, if we want to hit that off near the late 90s, we could even do that. That was a global phenomenon. So I feel like there could be some ways to kind of wrap shit in. I mean, hell, when 70 show started, Fez wasn't some sex-hungry, crazy, lunatic hound, but as his character progressed, that's kind of what he turned into. I think there's a lot of room for these kids.
And that's only if, it continues.
If it continues,
and that's a big if. So, like, when I watch that kind of thing, I'm just like, I'm not setting my expectation too high.
Right.
We talk about it all the time, but like when we talk about some shows, they've been around for a while, so our expectation is set. Yeah. But this one, and the way streaming's going right now, it is kind of up in the air.
It really is.
And I'm not gonna put money on it, but I would be surprised if it does get renewed.
Right.
Because Kurtwood Smith is kind of old. Deborah Jo Rupp is getting up there. Even your main cast from this original show,
because Fez wasn't looking that hot.
Yeah, I think he toned it down because he actually was in another show, and he looks exactly the same in the other show. So he's like clean shaven, built a little better. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's probably did it like that as a favor. And he's probably doing it on off time too. So like, you got to think about some of these guys are still doing shows. Donna, Lauren Prepon, she made her money on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
with Orange is the New Black. Topher Grace did fantastic in a lot of movies after that 70s show, but even in some other properties, he did a lot of voice work. Kurtwood Smith is always fucking working. So
Kitty just got some MCU money.
Yeah, Kitty's doing that. She'll be back for the other Disney property for Marvel. I forget what it's called, but she'll be back for that, playing her same self. So they're all doing well. Like, I want these actors to work because they're good at what they do.
Right.
Ashton Kutcher is more on the public front.
Yeah, because even most recently, he had this Netflix thing with The Ranch.
Mm-hmm. And, so, like, it was cool having those. Some of those actors actually showed up in that show.
Yep.
From that 70s show, and it was pretty neat to see.
Laura showed up. Actually, I think Kurtwood and...
Danny Masterson was in it for a while.
Yeah, he was one of the main co-stars.
Yeah, so... And Mila Kunis is all he has, Family Guy. So,
yeah.
Forever.
I bet you all she has to fucking do is just sit down in her living room with one of these microphones, record all the fucking lines, and just send it to Seth and just be like, here you go, just send me the checks.
Well, it's funny what she talks about going out in public, and the worst thing every time she hears something, it's always shut up, Meg.
Or damn it, Jackie.
Damn it, Jackie, I can't predict the weather.
It's like, it must suck to be her because her two biggest roles have two male characters that shit on her and have a catchphrase for shitting on her. Shut up, Meg, and damn it, Jackie.
The only thing I would hope for if they were to continue on was to see Red interact with each of them individually like he did with the original kids.
Now, he actually did some, because for the first couple episodes, you were kind of bouncing in and out. You kind of were sitting watching maybe like the fourth on. And the second episode actually did wrap around him spending some quality time with the kid that Leia kind of falls for near the end that I feel like could be Kelso's bastard son. Mm-hmm. When everyone had their smoke break or their first circle in the basement, they send Leia upstairs to go get Raisin Bran. She takes forever to come back down, so they wander back upstairs and they go all the way upstairs into Kitty and Red's room. They open up the closet and see all of Red's flannel. And now, just Red is a utilitarian guy. He just wears whatever the fuck he wants to. So he just has a lot of flannel. Well, flannel's hot in the 90s, so all the kids are like, oh my god, he's got the mother load of the flannel. And one of them holds it up, the kid that later he connects with. He's just like, I like this. And his girlfriend's like, yeah, that looks really good on you, babe. I think I'd like that. And he's just like, I can't steal it. And just like puts it back. Later on, he asks Red, he goes, hey, Red, could I have one of your flannels? He goes, why do you want one of my flannels? Well, my girl, this, that, and the other. He goes, yeah, I did that for my girl once, she said something looked good on me, and, I wore it, and what happened? Don't worry about it. Get out of my house. Like that. But then at the end of the episode, he was like, hey, Mr. Foreman, I found this, in my car. I think I have a secret admirer, and I think it's you. He's like, it's a shirt. Don't make it weird. He's like, can I call you Uncle Red? He's like, please don't. He's like, thank you, Uncle Red. And it's like, you just see him kind of look up and smile at him and just go back to wiping the counter, whatever the fuck he was doing. And so he had that a couple times with a few of them.
I'm not talking about something like that. I'm more like a one-to-one episode. One of those episodes was Red with Jackie. Jackie's dad had left, and he ends up having a talk with Jackie. He ends up having a talk with Hyde, Donna and Eric together. He ends up having these conversations that are very meaningful, and that's what I would hope for in the coming seasons if they are to be. So,
I hope so too, man.
Because that's kind of the point of a sitcom is the very special episodes.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. Maybe don't do heroin, kids. Just don't. Maybe don't get yacked out on the crack. I'm just saying it's Point Place, it's a shitty town. It's got crack.
Hello, Wisconsin.
Yeah, the beat gets a lot faster, and it's just a POV of somebody
hanging out down the street. Same old thing we did last week.
But it's someone just running through the house, ransacking it, and start stealing shit, ripping the TV up, and fucking running out with it.
But no, overall, out of 5, I'd give it a solid 3.5. I feel like it was a little better than middle of the road. Even though I felt like the plot with the kids was very weak in the first episode, episode 1 felt like a great reunion episode. It was great seeing Eric and Donna having a relationship you kind of expected, her just walking in with all of the luggage, and she's just like, don't worry, honey, I've got it. And he just looks at her, he goes, thanks? Doesn't expect anything less. He's still oblivious to help the woman out, because that's how Red was. He was just like, yeah, woman's got it. he still kind of carried that shit on. It was good seeing, as you mentioned, Michael and Jackie on their, third time in marriage, and how Kitty still throws shade Jackie's way. She never cared for Jackie or Donna. Ever. She liked the boys. She never cared for Jackie or Donna. So seeing everyone back in those roles was really nice. And as the episodes went on, it was good. So yeah, solid 3.5 out of 5.
I give it a 5 out of 7. So,
You just want to fuck the whole math system up.
no, just 5 out of 7. Let's just keep it that way.
But yeah, so
It's a 50s out of the 70s. You know what I'm saying?
it's a 50 out of the 70s. That's a good one. But no, folks in the Discord, let us know what you thought of 70s Show. Let us know what you thought of this episode. And if you got any sort of recommendations for us, definitely hit us up in that Discord. Link is in the episode description. Folks have been a lot more chatty with us. It's actually been really fun. So for this episode of the Couch Potatoes, I've been Alex and Chris. Do you have any sort of final thoughts for us?
I do, because we didn't discuss it during the beginning. Pink Floyd, congratulations on their 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon.
Yes, absolutely.
And apparently, all those old motherfuckers who had that album forgot that light hitting a prism is a rainbow. So their new cover was the number 50 embossed on a triangle, and the 50 has a rainbow
Inside the zero, yes.
And apparently it is pro-homosexual and woke and disgusting.
These woke motherfuckers.